Hello and welcome to another episode of the Wannabe Entrepreneur. You have been following my journey for 1 year now, and I really appreciate you for it. You've been my company in the good and in the bad moments. And I've also interviewed a lot of other bootstrappers that, like me, were just starting. Today, I want to bring them back to the show. I want to see where they are now and what were the struggles and biggest achievements in the past year. These two guests end up becoming members of the WB space. Their names, Kavya and Luca. Let's say hi.
Hi, Thiago. Thank you so much for having me here. It's been quite a journey. In fact, I'm so glad that you DM'd me on Twitter to ask me about the interview last year. And after I got the glimpse of WB space, I realized that there are so many other people out there from different parts of the world who are going through similar journeys.
Do you think that the community somehow solved the problem of loneliness and feeling lonely?
Yes, for sure. Because I'm so used to having colleagues, and I'm also
Yeah.
a bit extroverted. So suddenly to have nobody to speak to, and then I'm working on this thing by myself, and
Right.
the work itself is challenging because there is no set rules or set ways to go about my work, right?
And this was Kavya from episode 160. She is building Resume Pro, a tool that allows you to create beautiful resumes using Markdown. She joined the community not long after our first interview. And now, let's hear from Luca. Where is your WB mug? Did you end up buying it or no?
Yeah, I have the mug and a t-shirt.
You have a t-shirt?
Yeah, too.
Did you ever use it?
Yes, multiple times.
Really?
Yeah, I should make a picture,
Yes, of course. How are you?
I'm very tired, Thiago. Temperatures are hitting high records, I suppose, this period, so it's really difficult to work in general.
I met Luca in episode 186, and both him and Kavya have been my friends. We've been following each other's journey in the WB space, and having them here was a great opportunity to ask their thoughts on the community. How is it helping them become better bootstrappers?
I hope that we can meet the rest of the community members as well sometime in the future. But then again,
Yeah.
we're spread out across the world, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, that's kind of my dream,
Yeah.
I like the fact that it's a virtual community because I can bring it with me anywhere I go.
Mhm.
But I do miss, as an extrovert myself as well, right? I do miss just being in the same room as other people.
Mhm.
And just now a friend of mine was here, and I was we're going working from like co-working spaces and coffee places, and just being surrounded by other people working, it energizes me. And I would
Yeah.
love the community, the WB space, to be like, to grow to a point where you can meet WB members anywhere you go. And then you could just like do meetups of WB members in Singapore or in Lisbon or Berlin. I think this would be extremely fun.
So you're already on track to do that. Not too far.
What was the benefit of being part of the WB space in these last 7 months?
I mean, for me, it was super beneficial because I started doing this journey basically alone because nobody my local niche, let's say, so friends, family, girlfriend, and so on, they don't know anything about indie hacking, right?
Right.
So I didn't have the opportunity to talk with nobody, basically. And so being part of the community, and all the members are doing a similar journey, and they're kickstarting a new project. Some of them are full-time, others are on the side like me. So it was super beneficial for me to be part of this community, and and get new ideas and get feedback, and I can ask questions and get valuable replies back. I mean, it's incredible, and also to see the stories of others. So they shared their successes, their failures, and so on. And it's I think it's also motivating
And what is the difference between doing that on Twitter and doing that in the community?
It's similar, but in the community, you always interact with the same people, and I think we go more in the details in the community, while on Twitter it's less in depth. Yeah.
On Twitter, you have the algorithm in between you and your audience, right? So it can be that if you stop using Twitter for a while or stop interacting, then like people would just not see your updates. Whereas in the community, they will always see you. Like there's no algorithm in between. I think that makes a huge difference. I'm much more relaxed in the community, and in Twitter, I always have this feeling that like I need to tweet, and I get nervous if I don't get enough likes or I don't reach to people. So it's great when you have great engagement, but it's shit when you don't. In the community, you have less reach, of course, because you only have the community members, but you always have that reach, right? And they know you as it's great.
That's a very good point. Definitely.
There's no better feeling than hearing your customers that are also your friends describing how much they like your work and your products. It's something that I've never felt when I was working for others, and something that I surely missed. After knowing how much the community influenced their journey as indie makers, I wanted to know how much they were able to grow. Do you remember what was your MRR for a resume in September 2021?
September 2021, probably around roughly around $40. Yeah.
40.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, about there. Yeah.
And what is it now?
It's been consistently doing above $250. Some months it's 300, 350, 400 even in January, but it keeps fluctuating.
In less than a year, Kavya was able to grow her MRR from $40 to a top of $400. That's 10 times more. And keep in mind that her product does not have a subscription fee. So every month they have to go out and find new customers. Let's hear from Luca now. Do you remember your MRR when we first talked regarding to like from Ivory?
Sure. I don't know. It was like 10 euros, something like that.
Or I think you didn't even have implemented the payment method.
No? Okay.
So it was actually zero or something. Back then, I remember you implemented afterwards. And then you gave like a discount to the WBE. But I remember back then you was still not there. And and now, what is your MRR?
Still, it's 150 euros per month.
Which is amazing. I mean, in 7 months, you are now making 150 euros extra. Besides, because you also have a full-time job. In a couple of months, Luca was able to go from 0 to 150 euros MRR. And keep in mind that he still has a full-time job. I asked him about it, and he told me that he only spends 5 hours per week on these indie making projects. That's crazy. Both Kavya and I are doing this full time. Now let's talk about how they were able to acquire all of these paying customers. What has been the process of acquiring new customers for Resume?
So it started out with a product hunt launch sometime in December last year, 2021. And that brought in a lot of traffic, but it was only for a short period of time. It's a one-time effort. So then we had to then think about what are the other more consistent ways of getting traffic to our website.
Yeah.
So we shortlisted a few. One was digital marketing, which is like social media marketing, actually, to be specific, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Twitter. Then the second was ads. So we ran ads on Google and Facebook, Instagram. And then the third was blog. So we started blogging. So we have created a blog. So these were the three main areas that we thought we could focus on.
Which one has been working the best so far?
I would say SEO, organic search, is definitely working the best for us. In fact, it's quite well optimized for keywords like markdown resume or markdown CV. So we've been getting a lot of traffic, and also the intent is high when they search. They're exactly searching, and they find find us, and a lot of times we get a lot of positive feedback also. This is exactly what we were looking for.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. But when we ran ads, especially for Meta, which is both Facebook and Instagram combined, so they have a new business suite
Oh,
now
okay.
where we can run the ads together. That didn't work out well for us because we got a lot of clicks, but they were highly, yeah.
I remember that you even had like a consultant, someone that helped you and tried to, someone from Google, right? That tried to give you some tips on how to improve your conversion.
Yes, that was for Google. So we started running Google ads about a very lean budget of about 200 US dollars a month because we were
Okay.
making about 400 at that time. So we thought, okay, let's put 50% of our revenue into revenue and also profit because our costs are
Right.
very low. Yeah, so into running Google ads. And we selected a few, we did keyword research, we selected a few things that we wanted to run the ads for. I also got on a call with a consultant from Google. But then what I learned was he said, the budget is too less for any
Yeah.
impactful result. So then when I asked him, okay, what's the ideal budget you would recommend? And he said about 2,000 US dollars a month.
Wow.
And not just for 1 month. He said you need to consistently run the ads for a couple of months to see some good results.
I have had my share of paying ads in this past year, and I have the same opinion. They just do not work. I think they are just not meant for bootstrappers. Normally, they are meant for VC companies, companies that have a big marketing budget. And funny enough, Luca had the same experience.
I did a Google campaign, ads, and I think what was really frustrating is that I set a budget, a maximum budget for the expenses. I don't know how the expenses went definitely up
Over?
that limit. And
Really?
So, yeah. So it was a bit okay. This is a bit unfair.
How much did you pay?
I think 100 and something euros, something like that. Yes. And I don't know, it was not bringing that much traffic and not that conversions, to be honest. So it was not worth the expense from my experience. So I just stopped doing it and say, let's focus on Twitter because it's more in target with the product. And maybe let's focus a bit more on SEO. So I wrote a couple of articles on the blog of 5OE, and let's see.
What have you learned from Google Ads that actually made a huge difference in increasing your conversion?
The conversion. I think we haven't had a lot of problem with converting as such when people come to our website, but it's about finding the right person. So it's still, I think the problem still lies in user acquisition. So are we targeting the right kind of users? So so there's not a lot I would change on the website itself, apart from, of course, like some minor changes here and there, but not a lot because the users that we have acquired, we have gotten a lot of positive feedback, and so it's just about finding the right user with the right intent.
As Kavya said, now she's happy with the way her landing page looks. She's confident that if the right user comes to that page, they will convert. But reaching that point, reaching the perfect landing page, is hard work. We have to get a lot of feedback from target users and from people that have never seen the website before. Through multiple iterations, Luca was able to find what are the critical components that each landing page must have. Let's listen.
A strong headline that is going to communicate really clearly the outcome and the benefits that the user will get. Super important to have social proof. Okay. So to show up that someone is using and is happy using your product, and people need to pay attention how they're doing social proof, because sometimes they look a bit fake. especially when they're not linking, tweets or LinkedIn posts or whatever. So where they are just hard coded in the page.
Right.
It's my feeling that I don't know if I can trust that social proof or not. And then to show up a bit the features or the outcome and the benefits and so on. And at the end, to put a strong call to action on top and at the bottom of the page. At the bottom is super important because users will scroll your page, look at it, and when they reach the end, if you don't have a clear call to action, you will lose a lot of conversions.
And now that they have shared what they have learned, it's time to get more personal, to go through the frustrations and the things that kept them awake at night. Let's start with Kavya.
Probably getting sidetracked or getting lost, going down a rabbit hole in one of the areas where if I feel it's not working, then it's best to move on to another experiment or another initiative, right? But sometimes it's very easy to get lost in one of the areas. Like for example, I tried social media marketing. I tried to do those posts with like images and some tips and some other things which I can post from the company page or at regular intervals. I did that for 2 months. But it took a lot of my time, and I don't know if I would do it that way. Going forward, I would probably write blogs first, which is our number one priority for SEO, and then I can pull up some tips from those blogs and then convert that to a social media post.
Exactly.
So that's something that I learned, and I think that was a challenge to not let myself get lost in something that's not working. So I need to know also when to stop pushing in certain direction.
Right.
Yeah.
Did that affect you somehow mentally to just push too much into one direction and just getting exhausted? Did you ever get some kind of burnout?
More than burnout, I would say frustrated because I'm not seeing results, and a lot of times it also brings down the morale because it's hard to be motivated when you don't get a lot of positive results. Yeah. So that's kind of hard. So I would say that was the case.
How do you overcome that? How do you bring your motivation back up?
I took a day break in between, and then I sat down with my iPad. Then I started writing notes, trying to analyze what happened and what were the results, what were the number of impressions, likes, and how much time I actually put into all of this. So that's when I realized that it's a whole different game to keep running the social media posts over and over again. So then just analyzing the effort that I put in, or is there a better way to do this, which is when I came up with the idea of just converting blogs into smaller chunks.
Right.
Yeah. So it's just taking that break kind of helped. That one day where I just don't do anything and then come back to my iPad and then think.
Yeah, I find the same. I find that sometimes we get into this autopilot mode, just trying everything and doing posts and reading blog posts and try to figure out how to improve things. But sometimes taking a step back and even taking a break and then taking a step back and what you just mentioned, writing down our steps and try to plan ahead is something that really, really helps. I try to do that quite often. It's always also a very anxious time for me because when you're planning, and I think we spoke about this before, as an entrepreneur, there's no one telling you what to do. There's no right path because this right path doesn't exist, right? So when I was a developer, I mean, they would give me a task, right, to implement a certain feature. And I mean, it's quite clear what you have to do. You need to implement that feature and figure out a way to implement that feature. Sometimes it's not obvious. Sometimes you need to Google. Sometimes you need to ask. But the path is you already know what you have to do is to implement that feature. And that's your goal. But for us, we don't really know. We know that we want to get paid, we want to get more users, but how we get there is not clear, right? So
Exactly.
I get super anxious on that. Like, I don't know what to do because I know that I have limited time until I ran out of savings. So I know that each one, if I decide to focus now the next month in SEO, it means that I won't be focusing on Twitter, for example. And I do get anxious even in the planning. I know it's really important, but I really get anxious on like knowing what to do. Do you feel the same?
Yeah, I do feel the same. I totally get it. And also, when I look at other indie hackers posting on Twitter or anywhere else on like their MRR, I do get kind of like uh, anxious. I wouldn't say
Right.
jealous. It's not jealousy, but it's more of me feeling anxious that, hey, I'm missing out. Like, what am I not doing? Or am I not doing enough? Like, why am I
Yeah.
not growing as fast as these other indie hackers? And
Yeah.
yeah, that kind of affect my mental health for sure.
Yeah, the same for me. Exactly the same for me. And of course that it's funny because then I posted on Twitter, I did a poll and I asked how much what is your MRR? And I had multiple options. And I realized that 50%, so 80 people answered, and 50% of them were making less than $10 MRR, and about I think 80% were making less than 500. But it does not seem that way when you see all of these posts and everything going around on social media and Twitter specifically. You see people making tons of money, right?
Yes.
Even recently, I've seen, for example, a very specific example for my case, Anthony from Indie Worldwide. He started, yes. So I have like for the WB space, there's two main, let's say, competitors. There's the Indie Worldwide and there's Ramen Club. And the Indie Worldwide was a free community, and recently he converted it to a paid community. And his MRR is growing like crazy, right? So he started with almost like nothing, and every week I think he is now almost close to 1,000. And I was like,
wow.
oh my God, like he's doing exactly the same thing as myself, right? It's very similar. And in 1 week, he was able to go from like whatever, 200 to 800, which is something that took me months and months. And now I'm like in reaching 500. So I get so, yeah, I guess a little bit jealous. And also I question myself a lot, like what am I doing wrong? And that imposter syndrome really kicks in. You probably can see yourself in what both Kavya and I shared in this little snippet. It was not easy to listen to this, but it is completely true. Even though after 1 year of doing this, I'm more used to it and the anxiety levels are lower, it's still hard to wrap my head around the fact that I don't have a steady paycheck. I wonder if it is different for Luca, since he's doing this on the side and has a full-time job. Let's hear it. How does it feel like to be a part-time indie maker? Is this something that you still love? Is this something that you want to continue doing, or not so much?
Yeah, definitely. I want to continue and keep pushing on Highway and my products, definitely Twitter and my products and so on, because I think that, I mean, it's the lifestyle I'm looking for. The lifestyle of the indie hacker and working on my own stuff and take my own decisions. And I like a lot to engage with people on Twitter, by the way. So it's not, it's not hard for me, let's say. Of course, it's super hard, especially now in summer. I'm really feeling hard for the summer. I'm not really productive in this period, to be honest. But I want to keep pushing constantly. Yes.
You're not productive in your job or in Highway?
In general. Okay. Yes.
Do you have plans to maybe think on going full time, or do you have like a target on your MRR that made you think, okay, I can go now full time indie hacking?
I think that I really would like to go full on this. I don't know exactly when and if it will occur, because I didn't make the calculations yet. But I would like to take the decision in a moment in which I know that it could be sustainable. Because if I do it right now, I have a lot of expenses, the bills, as we said, to pay. If I do it now, probably I will consume all my savings, and in 6 months from now, it will be not sustainable for me.
Right.
Still, to stay full on my products. So my plan is to wait a bit more, when hopefully the MRR will be a bit higher. And then even if it will not cover all my expenses, I can decide to
run away.
I can decide to switch and go full on it.
Yeah.
Because I see a growth path, right?
Yeah, that's great. Do you remember any frustrations you had so far? Anything that you felt really down or sad or demotivated?
But I think that something happened, so I'm not really sure. So basically, it was a frustration, but it turned into something really useful. So at a certain point, on Twitter, I was posting a lot of web development content, also threads. And it was taking a lot of time for me because I like to create those pictures, illustrations with all the stuff inside. And it was taking a lot of time for me to prepare that content. At a certain point, I noticed that threads were not working very well on Twitter. To be honest, I noticed that a lot of other people on Twitter stopped doing threads out of threads. So probably it was something really common. So what I started doing, I said, okay, let me stop doing content because it's not working anymore. Let me try something different. So I started focusing on building public and posting those, engagement tweets, like asking questions or sharing what I'm doing and so on. And then I noticed that this is working much better compared to the pure content. And so, So
you took the frustration, but instead of like giving up, you had this mindset of like, okay, let's try to do something else that works.
Yeah.
Even though sometimes it might seem that you are the only one having these kind of frustrations, that's absolutely wrong. People are not very comfortable on sharing these kind of feelings on Twitter or indie hackers, but believe me, they are there. One good thing about both Luca and Kavya is that they're able to take a step back and rest and bring more energy and motivation towards those frustrations. They're able to find different paths. As an indie maker, this is crucial. You need to be always questioning things and trying different approaches. We know for sure that most likely you won't be right at your first try. It almost never happens. So you need to just keep on pushing. But that's enough on speaking about the frustrations. Let's speak about the great things, the winnings, the victories that they both had during this journey. And Kavya and her husband have one personal victory that they are very happy with. They are expecting a baby. How does expecting a baby changing things? Because for me, myself, this makes me so nervous, right? Me and my partner also think about that, but it also gets me super nervous because it seems that like all my priorities will change, and from our friends and family that already have babies, I know that their priorities change. And at the moment, most of my time is focused on my projects. And so does this scare you?
It does, to be frank. And also, it's not just now. We don't have a baby yet, right? Now that I'm pregnant, it's also a big change for me. Something that I hadn't expected would be to this extent. Something I was not mentally prepared for. Like, for example, I'm much more exhausted these days, much easily tired. So then the time I dedicate to Resume Pro and my other initiatives has gone down drastically.
Right.
So that is one aspect, the amount of time I can dedicate. But the second is also the anxiety has gone up in terms of, increasing the revenue soon. So the money aspect as well.
Right.
right? Like, how do I increase, the MRR without having to put in a lot of effort during these next few months? So
Right.
what I noticed is that in the past 2-3 months, I've not been actively working on marketing a lot, given my current circumstances. But we
Mm-hmm.
still had consistently gotten revenue of $250 or more without doing anything actively.
Right.
So the idea is that I want to bring it up further. So say by the time the baby's here, or I need to, take that maternity break,
Mm-hmm.
we're still getting in that revenue consistently.
Right. Right.
So that's the second challenge.
Even though there's no true passive income, we sure can automate a lot of the aspects of our business. And this is great because it means that we can take some time off and still be producing value and making money. This is great for Kavya and her husband that are now expecting a baby. Now let's get into the victories that Luca was able to achieve in this past year. And there's a lot of them. He did a great product hunt launch and it got mentioned by some big Twitter accounts. Let's hear it. So you got mentioned by Simon Whiteberg, which was one of the reasons why you started indie making, right? Like you followed him a lot, you learned a lot from him. Being mentioned as like one of the top tools or like one of the must-have Twitter tools. How did you get it?
I reached out in the past to Simon because he's doing very, very well, not only on Twitter but on many social media platforms. He has a product really successful, and he started just 1 year and a half ago, so it's great. And then I interacted a bit with him publicly on his tweets and so on. So I started this way to probably be noticed a bit. And I don't know exactly how that happened, but just by interacting with him and during the time and being consistent and so on. So he probably noticed that I was posting content about web development like him. So maybe there was a kind of empathy. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that happened. And then
so you're speaking through DMs on Twitter.
Yeah, a bit through DMs in Twitter and publicly on the public tweets. Yeah, just that. And then he created a thread about the tools to be used to be productive on Twitter. And one of the tools was Highboy, actually. So I was super excited about it.
So you didn't ask him for it. You just spoke about your products, what you're doing.
Yes.
And then he liked it and he decided to speak about it.
Yeah. I think a lot of things happen on Twitter, let's say, organically. So it's a kind of networking effect, right? So I didn't push for anything, but if you build stuff in public, sooner or later people will notice you. And if it's something interesting for them, they will promote you somehow. So it was very good. Another good opportunity was Typefully, the product to schedule tweets. Okay. Typefully, basically, it's another really successful tool, really well designed, made by two Italian guys, by the way.
Okay.
But we didn't interact that much in the past. But they prepared a giveaway. So they were giving free licenses to the winners of this giveaway. And one of the licenses was for Highway. So three lifetime licenses. That was another great way to promote the product somehow.
That's cool. How did it feel when Simon spoke about your tool? Like you just like open Twitter. I guess you saw a lot of notifications, and how did it feel?
Yeah, definitely it was super exciting, super exciting. I mean, to be honest, I didn't see a huge spike in the number of users of our customers and so on. But definitely it's something that is part of the process, right? So you build in public, Simon speak about your product, so you gain some kind of reputation and so on. And one piece with another maybe will lead to a new customer.
Yeah. And now let's go to the product hunt launch, because that was also a success. And we have done a lot of product hunt launches in the WB recently, and I think all of them were quite a success. All of them were like in the top 5 or so, which is really great. And even for my launch, I learned a lot from yours. So that's what I like about the community. Like we can learn a lot from each other. You got, I think, top 5, was it?
Five product of the day, correct?
And so tell me, like, how did you do it? And tell me about like the whole, like a summary of the whole experience.
Yeah. So basically, I wanted to prepare this product hunt launch well, as better as possible for my possibilities, because basically all I've been doing the last year and so on, like building an audience and so on, I knew that was a fundamental part for the success of a launch on Product Hunt. Because I noticed that most of the time, the success of the launch on Product Hunt is really not for the quality of the product per se, but it's for the audience and the community that you have been able to build in the previous months, years, and so on. And so basically, I spent 2 or 3 days actually preparing the launch, and then I spent the whole day of the launch being super active. So why it took 2 or 3 days? I think that there are teams or people that spend even longer in the preparation steps, because the better you prepare it, the maximum are the possibilities to have success. So basically, I prepared a lot of content. Of course, I prepared the first comment for the Product Hunt launch. I had to prepare the images for the Product Hunt page, some articles to be posted during the launch day on Indie Hackers, on Reddit, Twitter, of course. I published a tweet the day before asking for support on the day of the launch and make people aware that the day after that would have been the launch of Highway. Because, on Twitter, if you just tweet once, you don't know if people will get it. Because the timeline is really crowded.
Exactly.
During the day of the launch, actually, I spent the whole day replying to the comments on the Product Hunt page and posting hourly updates on Twitter in order to keep the thread up in the timeline. And
did you DM people asking for support?
Yeah, I think that I DM some people asking for support, but only those that, let's say, accepted to be contacted the day before.
You know how I did it in my launch? So for I was using Hivoy, obviously, and in Hivoy, a lot of people that followed me, I only contacted the ones that returned my welcome message. Because I know that these are already people that I spoke with. So actually, Hivoy in that regard was also super useful for that, because then I was like, okay, this person answered me, so they will probably support me. So I just messaged them. I could have used the other automation, by the way, I guess, but for that, then I needed to create a list, so it was easier to just copy paste and go through it.
Yes.
But then there was also a great filter for me to see the people that had higher chances of supporting me and engaging with me. It's been less than a year then I spoke with Kavya and Luca, and they both have learned so much and grown so much in their indie hacking career. It's amazing to witness, and I'm really glad to have them as WB members, because that way I can follow their journey. One thing is for sure, going full-time indie hacking changes your perspective in life. But you know something interesting, because I do not understand how developers make so much money. So all my friends now are making tons of money in comparison with what I'm making. They are getting raises and all of that, and of course I feel jealous, right? Like when they tell me that they're making 80 to 100K a year, right? And I think about that and I think, oh my God, how can a company pay so much to one single employee? It's crazy because I think how hard it is for me to reach 500 MRR. Like it's so much work. It's so much like sweat and tears and everything for 500 MRR. How are they like able to pay 100K a year to one single employee? It's something that it's absurd for me.
I know, right? And I think that a lot of these companies do have funding or backing from these VCs. I don't know how many of these companies are profitable.
But there are companies that are profitable doing that, right? So
Yeah, that's true.
for me, it's like, wow, absurd. It's
one day, Tiago.
I don't know. Like that's it. Like now I go to the supermarket or I take an Uber or whatever, and I think on how many clients do I need to have to pay this. You know, like I take an Uber and it's $10, and I think, okay, that's one WB member per month. That's how I think. You know.
So your unit of measurement is one paid user.
Yeah. Which I like because I can really feel how much effort I need to put to get an Uber or to get dinner outside or something like that.
Yeah.
It really puts things in perspective. You really think, you know, you understand the value of your money somehow.
Yeah, and you know, it's so much harder to get these $10. Like they mean so much more than what we used to earn. Yeah, I would buy like cappuccinos like $5, nothing too much. You know?
Yeah, I know. It was really nice catching up with you, Kavya. I think it was really interesting to see also like how this last year went and what you've learned and your struggles and your wins and what you've learned and everything. So thank you so much for catching up with us, the wannabe entrepreneurs.
I had a great time, Tiago. Thank you for having me.
One last question for you. Imagine that now you could go back 7 months and speak with your older self. What would you say to him?
No, to keep pushing because probably was on a good path, and something that I'm missing is to talk more with people about the product and asking more questions in general. But it's something I really would like to do. It's just that I don't know when to do that.
Yeah. Cool, Luca. Thank you so much for coming to the podcast again. And see you in the next 7 months. Well, I see you tomorrow in the community, I guess. But for the others, let's keep on updating you. I think I'll bet that in the next, when we talk again, 7 months or 8 months from now, you'll be at least in 1K MRR.
Oh, I hope so. You know, one of the goals I set in the WB space is to reach 500 euros by the end of the year. Mm-hmm. So let's see.
Yeah, I think you'll get there.
Thank you. I hope so. Thank you for having me, Tiago. It's always a pleasure to talk with you.
And this was my conversation with Kavya and Luca. Remember the last time we spoke? Yes, I say we because it was you as a listener, me as a host, speaking with Luca and Kavya. Back then, I didn't know them, but now it felt really different. Now it felt that we are friends because we have been sharing our journey for these past months. We were there for the good moments and the bad moments, and it feels great to have indie making friends. I don't feel as lonely anymore. And together with Luca and Kavya, there's many other members in WB space. If you want to support this podcast, as you know, I don't do any advertisement. I'm quite against that. So there's many other ways for you to make sure that this podcast continues to exist. You can become a member of the WB space and meet Kavya, Luca, and all the others. It costs $10 per month. And you'll be supporting not only your own projects, but as well this podcast. You can also acquire my guide. It's a bootstrapper's guide that will help you to find your first paying users. Besides that, you can also get the WB merch. We have t-shirts, mugs, and you can wear it proudly when you go out. People will know that you are a proud wannabe entrepreneur. Besides that, if you don't want to spend any money, Tweet about the podcast and share it with your friends. This will make sure that I have more reach and more people can listen to the Wannabe Entrepreneur. This was another Wannabe Entrepreneur episode. See you next time.